Hello and welcome to the Creative Soul Summit. I'm your host, Devin Walls, abstract painter, creative guide, and a true believer in the transformative power of making art. I've gathered 20 women from all different creative fields to talk about how their creative journey has changed their life, how they stay inspired, how they deal with self-doubt, and all things self-discovery, freedom, and healing through art. Today I'm talking with Sarah Marie Thompson, who is a creative lifestyle expert and soul guide. Sarah mentors creative souls, female entrepreneurs, visionaries, idea makers, and individuals that want to change the world in their own way to reach success in their life and business by mastering their passions and creative magic. She's personally a mentor, artist, writer, healer, and educator. She created the Wild and Creative brand, a worldwide community of hundreds of thousands of people to share insights, inspirations, and knowledge. She took the simple idea of gathering together passionate individuals that wanted to make money doing what they love and created a successful life business coaching business for the magically creative. She has hosted worldwide creative challenges, the WCC interview series, written a book, created a line of coloring books, and mentored successful female go-getters to live a more creative and inspired life. I know you guys are really going to dig this one, so without further ado, I present to you my conversation with Sarah Marie Thompson. All right. Hello, everyone. We are back on the Creative Soul Summit, and I'm here today with Sarah Marie Thompson. And she is a creative lifestyle expert and soul guide. So thank you so much for being with us today, Sarah. Really happy to have you on this call.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the topics, and I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited too. So just to start us off, will you tell us just a little bit, what do you do? What is a creative lifestyle expert, and how you were led to doing what you're doing now?
That's a very long question, a long answer.
You can give the short version or the long version. It's up to you.
Okay. So this was really interesting for me. Okay, so I'll start with my name and why I called myself this. Okay, so going into the online world, I had been playing around with a lot of different titles, a lot of different wording. And it wasn't until I really understood, and this was even kind of in the last year and a bit, really understood what my gifts were that I was here on earth to do. Mm-hmm. And I really found that out. And I was like, okay, I need to really focus the direction, focus my wording, focus everything on what these are. So for me, creativity, all of that is my number one soul gift. In a single day, I have to create something or I will explode or I'll feel really depleted, right? As many of you probably feel. So the creative lifestyle expert part of it really came into play because, I said to myself, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I just have to be creating. I just have to be, maybe creating something tangible, but also hosting experiences for people, hosting a creating experience for people. And so I use the term creative lifestyle expert. I know it's a little bit broad and sometimes people don't get it, but the idea behind it for me was that it felt so good because I was able to marry the two things that I was able to really master over these past number of years, which was the mental manifesting side of creation and then the physical artistic side of creation. And I was really able to marry them both because I think people either just think it's one or the other, or mostly just creativity, right? Creating. And I gotta say, growing up, I was a very old soul, very intuitive person, didn't really know how to use my intuition very well, but I knew that there was a lot of magic in the world. And I really thought that being a creator was just an artist, right? And I think that maybe some of you might still think that, but I just want you to know that it's just the beginning, right? It really is just the beginning. Creating art is a very intuitive process, right? And the idea that we can really manifest anything that we're really thinking about, putting it onto whether it be paper or canvas or what have you, is really an amazing, amazing act. So that's where the creative lifestyle part of things came in. I also, one of my very first careers was interior design, as well as being an artist at the same time. And so that really holds a really dear place in my heart as well. So I really like to kind of just not even just dabble in it, but just for my own, to fill my heart up. I still love interior design. So that really actually adds into the creative lifestyle expert part of it too, because I really feel that, it's not just interior design for me now. It really is coming from a place of consciously creating your energetic environment. Like that's really, really powerful too for me. So there's a lot of aspects to it, but what I do for clients online specifically is that, I did add the soul guide in there too. So I really assist creative individuals like you guys watching to get aligned with their most soul aligned journey. Right? That really helps them create something that is not only soul fulfilling and heart fulfilling, but also makes them money because they're in alignment. And they are also, it's all about the flow, right? Yeah. Like there's no more resistance, because I know for a creative, it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like the roller coaster of creative emotion.
Yes.
And I get it. I've so been there. And, there was even a time my early 20s when I was like trying to make 4 different entrepreneurial businesses work. And I was like, why aren't they working? And it's like, well, because chances are 3 of them probably weren't like on my journey, like on my soul aligned journey. Like I loved it, but I didn't like, it wasn't like heart resonating, right? I just was like, I have an interest in this. I should pursue. Like that's what we do, right? Yeah. So anyway. That.
Totally. There's so many like little gems in there. Especially that part about being multi-passionate, because something that a place I come from, I think I encounter in my community like 2 kinds of people. It's the person that is a little bit shy about being creative, right? Like they haven't quite got that confidence to really, like you said, like put something onto paper, like do that creative act. And then there's this like other end of the scale, which I don't talk about as much, but I love your perspective on, where you're like overly creative, right? And that kind of turns into this like scattered energy of you don't really know where to put your focus, because you are so tapped in, you have so many ideas within you. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you recommend for those people, and like, how did you navigate that?
So even with the work that I do, because I'm always coming at my mentorship from a very creative angle, like although we're doing everything from intuitive work to business strategy to executing your business, all of that, and healing work in that too, there really is the whole creative angle that I never want to let go of, because that's really like what brought me here to this point. What brought me into my online entrepreneurial journey was the idea that every single person is creative. It doesn't matter who you are literally creating every single moment of your life. So when I hear people say, I'm not creative, or I don't have a creative bone in my body, I'm just like, okay, stop right there. Because as you say this, right, like you're literally cutting off picking up on inspiration. Like you're literally when people say that about their intuition too, I'm not intuitive. Well, you're literally cutting off the idea that you're intuitive. Like you're basically not allowing yourself to move and progress in so many different ways when we're all creative, even if like creativity wasn't like one of your first and foremost like supernatural things, you're still a creator. So, I mean, right away, I would say that I work with a lot of women like that. And what I suggest to them is like, just start doing things that are a little bit out of the norm for you, that don't feel super comfortable, and they will start to feel comfortable. So whether that even means just gardening and the way that you're gardening, like, I'm a huge gardener, so I think that that's a super creative act.
Yeah.
People can start, like, the thing is with painting, it's so forgiving. Like,
yes.
I know that my mom is always so like, oh, like the white canvas, and she's like, it has to be perfect, and I'm just like, I want to go over there and just like splash it with paint. I'm just like, deal with this. Like, like it's not even that big of a deal. It's, you get over it. So just like really trying to stretch yourself in different ways and not cutting yourself off from the idea that you're creative or intuitive, because those things really go hand in hand. They totally do.
Oh,
if you're saying that you're not intuitive, but you're like a little bit of like creative, which I don't think actually like happens that often, because I feel like creative people are like pretty in tune.
Yeah.
But, you just don't want to cut yourself off from those things. I'm going to just share with you a story, if we have time, just real quick, about how I really followed inspiration to kind of get to the point where I'm at. So I'll try and like narrow this down in like the notes. Okay. So about 6 or so years ago, I was doing interior design at the time, and I just wasn't feeling a lot of abundance. Like, I think I wasn't using my intuition properly, and I was attracting a lot of the wrong people, a lot of the wrong events, all that kind of stuff. And so I remember saying to myself one day, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, universe, like, show me a sign, like, I'm getting really pissed off, like, show me a sign here. And I remember taking to my boyfriend, or my husband now, to a spa for his birthday to get a pedicure, which was, like, against his will, but I took him, and I was waiting in the waiting room there, and I saw this little tiny book to the side of me, and it was actually 365 Days of Affirmations by Louise Hay, R.I.P. And so the thing about that was I picked it up, and instantly I was just like, this is full of, like, just kind of, like, random art and quotes and affirmations and stuff, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, why am I not creating something like this? Like, this just resonates with me. Like, I had to, like, kind of see it, like, to understand. Mm-hmm. And so I started kind of, like, putting this book together. I went the next day to the bookstore, bought the book for inspiration, started, like, putting all this stuff together. And so then about a couple days later, I actually got a call from a potential client, interior design client, and she's like, hey, you need to come over to my bed and breakfast that I'm doing, and we'll meet and stuff. And so instantly, like, I became amazing friends with this girl, and I started talking to her about the book about a week later. She's like, I can help you with this book. Like, this is not a problem at all. Like, I'm good with words. You're great with art. Like, let's collaborate. Yeah. So coffee shop after coffee shop, this book was coming together. And we actually, like, basically almost got to the end of this book. And I was like, well, who's going to, like, buy our book? Like, our friends and family? Like, we didn't know about publishing, traditional publishing, self-publishing, anything like that. And so then I hopped online and I just created a community called Connection to Creative online, just as somewhere where we could just, like, promote different ideas, inspiration, pictures, stories, all that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of, like, pumping all this stuff into this with no intention, like, whatsoever, other than just building a community. Mm-hmm. This page that we had, like, just blew up. It was like, after the first week, it was like 20,000 likes, and it was like 50,000 likes, 100,000 likes, go on and on and on. And then from there, we're like, we have to build a website. Like, we have to give something to these people that are, like, following us, right? And so we built a website. The website really, like, transformed and took off in its own way. And so anyway, the Connection to Creative brand, that really, I transformed it now into the Wild and Creative brand, because me and my friend went our separate ways. She went to go and raise her kids in Mexico, and I was like, well, this is my baby. Like, I'm going to continue doing this. Yeah. And then with the Wild and Creative brand, that's when it really transformed a couple years ago into the online mentorship side of things, and really helping women entrepreneurs, build everything from the ground up. And so I'd love to share that story because, I just really followed each step of inspiration. Yeah. And that book, that coffee table book we were working on, like, it never got made, right?
But it, like, led you to basically what you're doing now. Yeah, that is a crazy story.
So I just want to share with people, like, when you see those moments of inspiration, like, don't just think that they're just, like, one-off. You know what I mean? Like, follow your curiosities, like open up that book next to you if it, like, calls to you, right? Yeah. I think a lot of the time people, and I talk about this a lot on Facebook Lives in my group, and it's like, so many people are closing themselves off from all these possibilities and experiences that are being given to them. And for example, like, there was even a couple women in my group, and they were great, and I provided them with a free program, right? Like, just I wanted to give them a free program. Yeah. And they didn't even sign up for it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't that they weren't resonating with it. I think that, in a sense, sometimes people can just totally close themselves off from these abundant possibilities that are coming their way. Totally. Like, this was a year ago. And, like, I share that story because, if the women would have taken the program, it might have opened amazing doors for them, maybe for their personal growth, their business growth. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I think that we're so on autopilot, like, so much of the time, that we're just like, well, it's just another thing. I don't need you, whatever it is, right? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. But that's a really big part of, I think, being a really conscious creator, is really being open to the experiences that are all around you. And just even, like, the littlest things can lead you to some really big, exciting stuff, right? So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's so many themes in there of self-trust. And then also, too, like you were saying before, being open. And I noticed that too. Like, if you're not open, you don't even notice, like, the creative inspiration that is coming your way or the opportunities that are coming your way. So I totally resonate with that whole thing. And that's a crazy story that the book didn't even get made, but it's like, was this source of abundance for you in a totally different way. It's like, you just never know where the universe is leading you. And so
I'm totally going to make it one day. Like it'll be like
it's going to get made.
Really excited. So it's just interesting how, we think that is our goal. Like we have this goal and it's like to do this exact thing. And like, we also have to be, organic with the way that we like approach the goal too, because if I was just like, no, coffee table book, like I would never have like done the website, then moved into this, what I'm doing now, like that, you know what I mean? So again, I think that rigidity is something that we really have to watch out for too and be aware of, because we have to be organic and in the flow, right? Yeah. And the flow is very intuitive and, but again, it's really having that really good balance of masculine and feminine energy. Which I think a lot of people don't really think about, like on a day-to-day, right? And it's kind of funny, like you really have to break down, like, okay, how much masculine energy do I really, really have, or do I really, really need? Well, you need that for getting things done, the execution of things. You need that for, like the motivation, all that kind of stuff. But I think you even need more feminine energy most of the time to really allow you to be tapped in the flow, intuitive, and all of that kind of thing, and open to receiving, because like that's feminine energy, is like being open to receive, right?
Yes. So 100%. Yeah, and that totally applies to like money, ideas, anything. And I totally agree. So something else that I want to touch on, and you kind of tapped on this in your journey, but I am so fascinated with this, is the importance of tending to your space. And particularly because I think it's so cool that you have this background in like interior design, being an artist, and being a healer. And then now you're like taking all of that and you're offering it to others in this mentorship way. And it's just such this unique package. And so I'm so curious about tending to our space, but particularly our creative space. And I'm wondering if you have any practices around, like, do you create a sacred space for yourself, like using this kind of idea and the importance of that, and like tips for that? Yeah. What do you have for that? I'm
going to say, I'm like thinking about it as you're talking, and I was just thinking like, my poor husband, like our whole house is my creative space. Yeah. He has our basement, which is his musical space. You know what I mean? And I don't really like, I'll store stuff down there, but like that really is his place. And I think it's interesting because, again, it's such an interesting concept to think about, like the feminine and the masculine, because for me, I love light. Like I have to be like around light. I find it so inspirational and just amazing. Agree. And he likes the basement, like the darkness, and that really gives him his creative flow, which I think is always so weird, right? So
that's so interesting. I can totally see that though. I'm a light person for sure.
I'm wondering if that's like this scene for like a lot of men and women. But for me, honestly, like I am so grateful for the home I live in. So it's about 115 years old. It's like full of magic and character. The whole thing is like my creative zone. There's art everywhere, just like, gardens everywhere. And I gotta say that I really do try to put intention into every single thing that I do and all my space. So something that I train people on in one of my programs is really setting programs. Energetic programs into all the things in your house. So for example, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but if you were to turn a doorknob, put a sticky note over that doorknob for the first like 50 times you do it. And it's like in your mind, every time I turn a doorknob, like abundance flows to me, right? Or every time you drink water, it's like I become healthier and healthier. So I really like kind of look at that as really adding more magic into my space, because I have set programs all around my home. I do have a special area upstairs where I have like, I really just feel like it is a creative zone. It has like all my books, like it has like my art stuff, all that kind of stuff. And I will go up there a lot and hang out and just kind of like be in the space. Even if I'm not feeling super creative that day, I will go up there and just kind of like bask in it. And then I will feel creative, right? I will start to feel like the engine's kind of going. But for me, I gotta say, this like sounds funny, but like honestly, I'm that creative and colorful that I need to have it surrounding me all the time. Like it's not really just like an altar. I know that some people would like think of an altar as like their zone where they go and like, channel or what have you. But for me, it's just like living it. It's just living it all the time. And so, like when I talked about the creative environments, right, and really be conscious creator of your environment, that really is like me to a T, because if there's something in my house that I don't love or doesn't make me feel good, like I'm not going to have it in my house, right? Like, so I have really collected all of these things over the years that are just like every single thing that I love. So I'm just surrounded by the energy of things that I love.
Yeah,
Makes
absolutely.
me more creative and, you know, makes me more open to whatever, right? So
yeah. And there's this sense too, I'm sure, with like the interior design background you have this, and I would like to get more into this, where it's creative in itself, like designing your space, and it's like feeding the other creative projects that you're working on in the space. So it's just like a very interesting way of everything feeding into each other and being intentional about that, like you said, which I really love. And I'm totally going to start doing that when I turn a doorknob.
Well, it's like, you know, your inner world definitely does reflect your outer world. And I'm sure, you know, this might annoy a few people watching, but it's like, you know, sometimes, and I don't judge, like when I go to people's houses, right, I kind of can turn that off. Like it used to be something at the beginning where I was like, oh, but like I can turn it off. But you go into someone's house and it's so unbelievably lackluster, right? It doesn't have to be designed beautifully. I'm just saying it's so lackluster, and you can feel like the lack of love, like in their stuff. And that just makes me really, really sad, because it's like you have the choice. You always have the choice to love something. I think it's better to have like almost nothing in your house and a few things that you really, really love than, you know, beige carpet, beige couch, beige lamps, beige, what, you know what I mean? And it's just like they think that it's great because it goes together, but really it's just like the most uninspiring thing ever, right? So, you know, and that's not coming from an interior design judgment. I'm just saying that that is something for people to look out for. I know a lot of them would say, well, I don't know how to design my house. Like, I don't know how to do that. And it's not about that specifically. It's just saying, like, you know, make sure the things in your house and the spaces that you hang out in, like, you love them. Like, you love them so much that they inspire you, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. And there's definitely, I like what you say about like, it's just better to have a few things too, because it's like that love quality rather than just filling the space. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. Yeah. So I kind of want to ask like the artist side of you, because I know that you do both like art and mentoring. How do you deal with, or if you experience like that self-critical, self-doubting voice when you're knee-deep in a project? Because I know that that is something that I have encountered, especially as I've actually gotten farther along my journey, which I found to be interesting. And I'm wondering what your experience is with that.
Okay, I can definitely relate to that, especially getting farther along in your journey. Let me even like give you a snapshot of like my artist life, like even like, you know, getting out of high school into that kind of thing. The art that I did was so unbelievably intuitive and free flowing. And I didn't even really like know how to use my intuition properly at that time. I'm always doing these quotes. I don't know why. But it was always like so free flowing and just like had this like amazing energy and flow to it. Then it's like, as you just like progress in life and you just start learning more things and stuff, then my art started getting more like detailed. Oh no, there's like a little like it had to be perfect or something like that, right? And it really like did totally like bum out the energy, right? So I really have to, it's funny, like when I do art now, I have to be really like quite conscious about being okay with the drips, with being okay with the messiness, because that's what I used to love. So it's like, why have I transformed into like something else, right? It's kind of annoyed me. But again, it really is, I think, not like setting the intention to do something amazing and like it feed your soul, but not having the preconceived idea of what it has to be, right? Like I think that that's what it is, because now it's so much like make a goal and make your goal happen and this and that. And so I think that that's kind of like where it came from, right? So again, like that was something I definitely had to work through, and I think a lot of people do. And perfectionism with art, like honestly, it's just going to ruin it. Like it's just going to ruin the whole thing. So just don't do it. Try not to get there. Again, like when I think of my mom and her art, is that she thinks everything has to be just absolutely perfect. And it's just, you know, that white canvas stays in her art room for like 6 months before she does something. When it's just like, the exciting part of me is like, there's a white canvas, like let's do something. That's like the totally different different mindset. I can totally bring that whole situation into kind of like what I am doing now too, because you know, as we grow and progress and like have more higher expectations for ourselves and bigger goals and all that kind of stuff, I definitely can say that, you know, I start like all projects very like organically and like intuitively, and I'm like, yes, we're gonna like do this course and it's gonna be amazing, and then you start getting into it more and then overanalyzing things more, and it's just like maybe people don't want to do it, and then but you know, like it's not the case. And so honestly, it's not even like the artist journey. I think it's just like a real human experience that you know, we want good things to happen for ourselves, and we want to set our sights high, and it's just a tricky thing, especially with art, because art is such a personal thing, and artists can get really territorial and really what's the word, you know, about their own art, and you know, like the whole artist vibe there. And I gotta share, like, that was one of the reasons why I decided to get out of interior design at that time, right? One of the other reasons was because I just found, like, in the very artistic town that I was in, it was just so much competition, and it just wasn't feeling good. But in a way that I actually became more creative and not competitive in that sense, was I was like, how can I really work with all of these interior designers and not have them as like a threat, or not have them as like competition? And it really was that I decided to create really big art for them to put in all the show homes. So like there was, I think, about 20 or so show homes that had my art in it at one time back then. And I just thought that was a really kind of interesting concept that I came up with. Not that it was new or anything, but the idea that like, okay, you're having trouble right now, you're having resistance. How can you like not see these people as competition, right? Like how can you work with them all properly?
Totally.
So I know we got off topic there again, but
no, that hits on something actually that I think really goes hand in hand with the self-judgment, is the like comparison and competition, especially now. Not that I was an artist before this time, but I can imagine that with that social media has brought it to a whole new level, because just all day you have the ability to look at what other people are doing. And I think it's totally related, is this like competition factor. Even if we don't want to admit it, there's always a part of us, because we want to be perfect and good and all these things, that, you know, we compare and like, And so actually that kind of touches on too a little bit in this competition factor, is when you're working with creatives, how do you direct them to find their unique voice, their unique style, like whatever field they're in, whether it's business or art or writing or whatever. What do you recommend for that process?
So I've got to say, and I kind of learned this the hard way, but you know, you having your unique style, personality, voice, the way you, whatever, if you're an artist, doesn't matter. It's really important that you don't dull that down and you be 100% you. So when I first decided to go into the mentorship role online, I hired a business coach right away. And, you know, again, I think I was just so excited in the moment to get going. I really wasn't like intuitively picking this business coach because I was just like so in the moment, like I need this, like, but it's so important that the people you work with resonate with you and you feel really good. Side note. Okay, so she basically suggested that I take like all of the creative stuff off my website because I needed to be like more like mainstream or more like lifestyle brand or something like that. And so I did it. And I remember like looking at this website that I had. It was like, you know, I had some pretty pictures of me and stuff, and it said I was creative, but it was like wah wah, and like I was like everybody else out there. Like how was I going to stand out? So I had to go back to the drawing board again, like redo my website again, which was very expensive, put all the creative aspects on it this time, because when I was looking at it before, like I didn't even want to share it with anyone. Like it wasn't my resume, like it wasn't who I was. It was showing, it made me feel like I was telling people I was boring, and I was okay with that. So it really kind of hurt in that sense, but, you know, redoing it again made me feel a lot better because, you know, if you're creative, why would you not put creative stuff on your website? I always say to everybody, if you are a lawyer and you like kittens, put kittens all over your website because you're going to stand up, you're going to attract the right clients and soulmate clients, people that understand you. Again, going back to what we very first talked about, you know, really understanding what your soul skills are and what you're here to do on earth, like which I help people do. It's not about changing what you do. It's about changing the way that you do it. So that's really, really important because that totally changes up the energy and causes a lot of like way less resistance. So, for example, I know that for me, like, something that really lights up my soul is like hens and chicks, like succulents, right? Like that's like my soul plant. It was all at my wedding, it's all over my house, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I really need to put that aspect of me in my business. So that's part of my logo. So a lot of people wouldn't even notice that, but I know that that's there. And so I really feel like every aspect of my website and the business that I do is like 100% me. And it feels really, really good. Yeah. When we're doing things that are not 100% us and yet we're still like pushing forth, you're going to find resistance. Totally. But it's tricky because honestly, I can say like I'm guilty of it too. Like you have to become aware of it or else you're going to go on autopilot with it, right? Yeah. You have to kind of do a check-in with yourself like every like 3 or so months and just be like, okay, like all these aspects of things that I'm doing, like, do I love them? Do I like them? Do I not like them? Do I want to try them later? They have to resonate with you right now and be totally aligned and perfect. So a lot of the time I'll have new female clients that I'm working with, and they'll be like, okay, like I probably just need like a little bit of work with you. Like I have got a business already going and like all that kind of stuff. And it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And I'll be like, okay, no problem. But like, I just want to ask you some questions and start from the beginning. And I'll start asking questions that have to be so unbelievably like aligned with even like the foundation of like what they're doing. And they're like, oh my God, like I was not like, you know what I mean? Like we don't know like until we're kind of like presented these questions or like even this mindset of thinking this way. So really authenticity is so unbelievably key, but I think it's more than being authentic. It is like being authentic, but also being so aware and conscious about the things that you feel really, really good about and that causes you that alignment. Because when you can get into the alignment of all your blocks, like it's just like unbelievable, stoppable force. And it's like there is no contradictions happening in your mind. So I find that with myself, everybody, you know, when we're feeling resistance in life, things aren't working out, it usually is because there's contradictions with our belief system. We're thinking one way, I would really like to do that. But we're like, our actions are showing us something else. But we don't often even see the two like put together until we're like, oh my God, like, what am I doing?
Right? Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about going back to that foundation. That's actually something that I teach is like your marks and your colors, like from the very baby beginning, like let's cultivate that from an intuitive place. And it's like exactly what you're saying too. And I think people don't realize how that foundation really builds, and it's so important to start there. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So we're coming to the end of our conversation here. So before I ask you the last question, where can people find more of you? What do you have coming up right now? Like what's going on in your world?
Okay, so I have some exciting things coming up. Okay, so people can find me at wildandcreative.com. That's my website. Okay. And I have a group online too, a really awesome, fun, very laid back, fun, intuitive, creative community called Wild and Creative Golden Souls. So you can check me out there in my group. I have a number of programs that are always going on behind the scenes. One, my signature program is called Conscious Creating. So if anybody is ever finding like they need kind of like that perspective of, not just being a more creative person, because I don't dive into like, the actual creation aspect of it like you do, like with your art. But it's more of like being a powerful creator, getting in tune with your intuition, really expanding your capabilities of manifesting, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what that program is about. So it's really, really good. So that's on my website. And then a program that I'm actually running for the second time, which is all about women really embodying their personal gold and like finding what they're good at and like getting it out there into life, is called the Golden Pineapple Project. And the Golden Pineapple Project, it's going to be starting again on October 2nd. I'm not sure if we're going to make that with this video, but it will be again, I think in the very beginning of the year again. So we had such an amazing turnout for that. I had this idea because I had this story about like how gold has really been like a big part of my life when I really made the transition from, I always would turn to silver for everything. Like I'd always pick silver for everything. And I made that connection long ago that gold was really, like why was I not choosing gold? Like why was I kind of like pushing it away from my life? Because choosing silver really meant for me, like deep down, I realized that it meant that I was choosing like second place, right? Like it was kind of like
so interesting
aha moment I had. And I even got to that point where I said to my mom, this was like when I was 11, and I was like, you know, I feel like I'm always like second place in every single thing that I do. Like, I just feel that way. And I was like, but I'm the oldest born, or the first child, so I guess I'm gold in that sense. And I remember her saying to me, it's like, actually, like, you're the second born. Like, like, I had a baby a long time ago, and this is what I found out that.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was just like solidified for me. I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. So actually not until about 4 or 5 years ago when I was at like a healing retreat, I made that huge connection that I was like, why am I always pushing away gold? And so now I've really embraced gold in everything that I do in my life. And so that's where the Golden Pineapple Project really came from. And it's really about people like letting go of all their creative fears and embracing the goal, like their inner gold, and not pushing it away. So anyway, there's more to it, but like that's kind of the idea. If you were wondering like what the Golden Pineapple Project is all about.
I kind of was actually, because I saw that, and that's like such an interesting story behind that. That's so cool. Love it. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's coming up soon. So again, on my website, all the details for that, or like in my group, that kind of thing. But yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll definitely link to all that below this video. And I just wanted to say thank you so much again for being here and offering all your wisdom, like your really diverse background, and really your leadership. I think that that's something that you really radiate. And so I really appreciate that. So thank you for bringing all of that.
Thank you for asking me to be on. I have to say that like with all the kind of series and summits and things that I'm on, they're not often creatively driven, right? So it's really awesome to come like from a creative standpoint, because I know that the people that you have watching will get it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Well, that actually feeds in perfectly to the final question, which is, what do you love about being creative?
I love that being creative or having a really like overly creative mind for me brings me more magic in my life like every single day. And for somebody that, you know, if you are out there and you're kind of like looking for more magic, just become more creative, like, and just allow that into your life. I have always been a creator, like a creative person, like ever since I was like born. And I think I get a lot of that like from teachings from my grandma and stuff like that. And she was a major like big influence in my life, like creatively. And but again, I just associated it with like this magical world. But it's nice because I think that as we give ourselves the power to be more creative in this life now, it's like, you know, there's a lot of crap going on, right? And really, like, you are adding more magic and more harmony to the world. I've always said that, you know, if the entire world was able to express themselves creatively, the world would be a much more harmonious place. So, you know, we look at, like, war, we look at, like, these countries in turmoil, and I can guarantee it, I'm pretty sure that they're not doing art or, like, creating themselves.
Yeah.
Or expressing themselves. Like,
totally.
You probably guarantee it. And it's really, really sad. So, really, like, creativity heals. Like, it not only heals a situation, but, like, it heals you from the inside out, right? And so I love a lot of things about it. I can't even tell you everything, but those are a few.
I think you hit on, like, some super perfect points. Magic and healing. I would totally agree with that. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. It's been awesome connecting with you, and I hope we get the chance to connect again soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.